Welcome to the 38th chapter of the book of Genesis, Judah and Tamar. A little curve here away from the story of Joseph. While Joseph was going into Egypt after being sold to the Ishmaelites, this apparently was happening in that time because they put it in the order after the selling of Joseph into Egypt. And it begins, and now Judah was he was the second or third son of Jacob. He was a son of Leah. Leah was his mother. And Jesus and David are in the line of Judah. It's interesting, and that's why they probably made this special, because later with going through David, it may have been added. Now, if it was written by Moses, then it wouldn't have been because of David. It would have been because Moses was directed by God to put this in, and for a good reason, because of the lineage of David and Judah. It begins, I'll read some in the Greek, and we'll go through the chapter. Egeneto they in tokaro ekino, katevi Iudas, apo ton adelphon avtu, ke afiketo eos pros anthropon tina odulamat mitin, o onoma iras. And it came to pass in that time, Judah went from his brothers, doing his own thing, and he arrived before a certain man, an Adulamite, whose name was Hira. The Adulamites were not of the family. They were not Jews. Later, Joshua fought with them and mentions that, I think, in Joshua 12:15. So he met this man. He became his right-hand helper. And Judah saw there a daughter of a Canaanite man, whose name was Shua. Now, Jacob marrying a Canaanite was not the greatest thing in the world, because of the Rebekah not liking the Canaanites, hating them, despising them, because of Esau marrying into the Canaanite people, because the people of Judah, Judas, were all from Haran, Mesopotamia, with a trek that was designed by God. So anyway, Judah takes a Canaanite wife, name was Sava in the Greek, and he took her and entered to her, had relations, and conceiving, she bore a son and called his name And conceiving, again, she bore a son still again, and called his name Avnan, or Onan. And adding, she bore a son, third one, and called his name Selom, or Sheila in the King James. And she was in Chezib when she bore them. Let's go to a map and we'll see where Chezib is. Here it is over here. They're down in this area, Hebron, and went up to Shechem, and with the cattle, that's where he sold Joseph. Joseph went down. So Judah is over here and marries his Chezib and Timnah. We'll see that in a few verses here, what happens with Timnah. So she was in Chezib when she bore them, and Judah took a wife for his firstborn. Now, the firstborn is interesting because we see in Matthew 1:2, it says, and he knew her not until of which she bore her firstborn son, and she called his name Jesus. So Jesus was the firstborn. That means that there were others born after him. Now, one of the largest denominations man-made denominations don't go along with the Bible. They go along with their own interpretation of what they want it to be, but it's not God's plan. Mary had other children, which Matthew 1:2 is talking about. Now, Tamar doesn't say, it just says he took a wife. Was she a Canaanite? She could have been. Was she of the family that would be more of a Jew? It's a possibility. We don't know. In verse 7, it continues, and it came to pass, the firstborn of Judah, was wicked before the Lord, and God killed him. Now, God decides when we are going to be born and when we're going to be taken away, for whatever reason God finds. Doesn't mean everybody that does good is going to live long, or everybody that does wicked is going to die short. But generally, I think that is the case. I can't prove it, though. And verse 8, and Judah said to Onan, enter to the wife of your brother, and ally to her by marriage, and raise up seed to your brother. Well, now, this was before the law of Moses, so the idea of raising seed of your brother was something way before God instituted it on Mount Sinai. But in the New Testament, we see the interesting story where it says in Luke 20:27, but coming forward, certain ones of the Sadducees, disputing a resurrection, claiming it not to be, asked him, saying, Teacher, Moses wrote to us, if anyone's brother should die, having a wife. See, now he uses Moses wrote to us, but it was actually Abraham that had it. So they were kind of wrong there. And he should die childless, that his brother should take the wife and should raise up seed to his brother. And then it goes into the story about the 7 brothers who all had relations, and they died, and the woman died, and whose wife would she be in the resurrection, where Jesus says that we're like angels in heaven. You can go and read that if you'd like in Luke chapter 20:27 to 40. So Onan was encouraged by his father to raise up seed to the brother who died. And Onan, knowing that the seed will not be to him, it's not going to be a real blood relation because it's a different wife than the one he had, that it came to pass whenever he entered to his brother's wife, he discharged upon the ground to not give seed to his brother, and you all, I'm sure, understand that. And it appeared wicked before God that he did this. I don't believe it was discharging the seed upon the ground, but it was the not wanting to do the right thing with the family. And God put to death also this one. And Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, you sit as a widow in the house of your father until Shelah, my older son, should become older. Shelah, my son, should become older. For he said, well, lest at any time this one also should die, as also his brothers. So he's worried about Shelah dying. It's like she has bad luck around her, these sons dying. And Tamar went forth and settled in the house of her father. And the days multiplied, and Shua, the wife of Judah, died. And being comforted, or wanting to be comforted, Judah ascended to the shearing of his sheep, he and Hirah, his shepherd, the Adulamite, unto Timnath. Now, Timnath was real close. We'll go back to that map. Timnath is really close to Chezib. So there it is there. He went there to shear his sheep. And removing the garments of the widow hood from herself, she put around a lightweight covering and bedecked herself and sat by the gates of Enam, which is in the byway of Timnath, for she knew that Shelah was older, but Judah, did not give her to him as a wife. So she's being kept away from the sons of Judah. And Judah, seeing her, assumed her to be a harlot, for she covered up her face, and he recognized her not. Now, this is the second time Jacob, the father, didn't recognize Leah, thinking that it was Rachel, and he went in to have relations with her. So apparently these women covered themselves up fairly well for whatever reason. And he turned aside, Judah turned aside to her in the way, and he said to her, so she's thinking that she's a prostitute, and she says, "Allow me to enter you," for he did not know that she is his daughter-in-law. Now, it doesn't say anything here how bad that was to do that, interestingly. And she said, "What will you give to me if you should enter to me?" And he said, "I will send to you a kid of the goats from out of my flocks." And she said, "You should give a deposit until you send it." A down payment, more or less. And he said, "Well, what deposit to you shall I give?" And she said, "Well, your ring, your pendant, and the rod in your hand." And he gave them to her, and entered to her, and she conceived in the womb from him. Now, one time she conceived in the womb, doesn't say, unless he stayed there more times. I doubt that. So anyway, she is now pregnant. And rising up, she went forth, and she removed her lightweight garment from herself and put on the garments of her widowhood. Apparently wore some type of black clothes. And Judah sent the kid of the goats by the hand of his shepherd, the Adullamite, to deliver by him. So apparently Judah was not ashamed, because he's admitting he went to a prostitute and gives the kid of the goats to this his right-hand man, and nothing there about how bad he was by going to a prostitute. And so the man went, and he did not find her. And he asked the men from the place, "Where is the harlot being in Enam upon the way?" You'd think he wouldn't be ashamed to even ask that. And they'd be like, somebody sending you to go pay a prostitute in New Orleans, and you're walking around, "Where's the prostitute?" and asking all these people. It's kind of strange, but it is what it is. And they said, "There was not a harlot here." And he returned to Judah and said, "I did not find her. And the men from the place say there was no harlot here." And Judah said, "Let her have them. But lest at any time we should be ridiculed, I indeed sent this kid." Now, who's going to ridicule him? "But you have not found her." Sort of his own making this up, feeling like, he doesn't want to, he wants to do the right thing. He said he was going to send it. So, like he's being righteous here, but is he being unrighteous with the harlot? Doesn't show it that way, does it? And it came to pass after 3 months, it was announced to Judah, saying, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law, fornicated, and behold, she has one in the womb, from out of her harlotry." And Judah said, "Lead her out and let her be incinerated." He's mad because she had sex with somebody other than his son. And while leading her, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, "From out of the man of whom these things are, I have one in the womb." Now, wanting to kill the daughter because she had sex with another man, many religions, I don't know about many, but some of the religions, that's a real no-no even today. And a person could lose their life. I was just watching a video on YouTube they call them shorts, and about a Muslim wife who was saying she would do anything for her husband. She loved her husband. If he told her to jump, she would do it, lie down, cook, anything. She would do anything. So the men really had control over the women. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just the way it is with the Muslim religion. Probably was the same thing here back with the Jews and these people for thousands of years until basically feminism in the United States is when it really changed, where women really sort of revolted, started wearing men's clothes and so forth. And I may hear a lot of people complaining about me saying that, it started with feminism, but that's how I see it. And then having abortions is sort of with a way of not having children, just have an abortion, and rather than using some type of a birth control method. And so she said, "From out of the man of whom these things are, I have one in the womb." And she said, "Recognize whose ring and pendant and rod these are." And Judah realized and said, "Tamar has done justice rather than I, because I did not give her Shelah, my son." So now Judah has realized that he did injustice by not because he was going to kill her, but because he didn't give the son to her. And he did not act any longer to know her. So she is pregnant, going to have children. He recognizes it, but he does not live with her and have relations with her again. And it came to pass when she was bearing that thus there were twins in her womb. And it came to pass in her bearing, the one put forth first the hand, and taking it, the midwife tied upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, "This one will come forth prior." And as he retracted the hand, straightway came forth his brother. And she said, "Why was the barrier cut through because of you?" And she called his name Phares. And Phares is in the line of Jesus, and not the brother who it says, "And after this came forth his brother, of which was upon his hand the scarlet thread." And she called his name Zerah. He was not in the lineage of David or Judah. Chapter 39, in this video seminar, we go back to the story of Joseph in Potiphar's house. I hope you join us in the next video. Until then, God bless.